Hello and welcome back for part 3 of chapter 13, Social Work with U.S. Casualties of Middle Eastern Wars. I want to just, for a few minutes, highlight some of the things that social workers are doing and how they're involved with veterans. As I mentioned, I think in the first video, social work has been involved in working with veterans all the way back to the 1860s with the Civil War in our own country. And we have been involved with veterans ever since. Social workers work in hospitals, specifically veterans hospitals, but also work with other organizations that serve veterans that are for profit or nonprofit. And social workers also work within certain branches of the U.S. military service as well. And I should also include in there that there are social workers who are in private practice, those who are not working for a particular agency or government department, but they counsel and they provide therapy for private clients who are also dealing with veterans and helping them as well. So social workers are involved in a variety of settings in helping soldiers, not just the soldiers, but also their families. Some of the things they do, of course, I've already mentioned about counseling and therapy, especially around mental health issues, post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a lot of counseling and therapy that goes on in regards to family and couples counseling. It is a challenging thing to come back from the kind of an environment that a soldier has served in and be reunited with their husband or their wife, and also with their children if they have any, and the rest of their family, and even with their friends. Just the environment that they've been in is so different. It is not easy. And that transition time is incredibly challenging for many soldiers, especially those who also are no longer actively serving in the armed forces. They've fulfilled their tour of duty, they've fulfilled their time, and now they are no longer, in the service. And so their whole world has changed again, because while they have been in the military, it's a very tight-knit, enclosed environment there. People look the same, act the same, talk the same. It has its own language, its own rules, its own courts. It's a world within a world. Very structured, very ordered. And so then to come back into a world that is not so much like that has its unique challenges. Social workers help provide the guidance, counseling, and assistance for soldiers to help make that transition. So there's a lot of counseling and therapy that's done and made available in those situations. There's also other things, I'm just highlighting a few that social workers do in terms of helping soldiers get connected back into the workplace, helping them prepare an appropriate job resume and gaining the skills for doing that, for going out and getting a job. Also, possibly with re-engaging with their education, using some of the benefits from the GI Bill to go back to school, helping them get connected with that. Also, connecting with community resources for whatever they might need within the local community. Helping to establish those connections for the soldiers to receive what benefits are necessary. So there's a lot of different things that social workers do. As I mentioned, some of it at the beginning does deal with a lot of the grief and loss and stress. There's a significant problem of alcoholism and drug addiction, depression, helplessness, hopelessness, thoughts of suicide. Those are all huge things in and of themselves. Those who've come back physically wounded are in need, of course, of getting the right kind of occupational therapy, physical therapy, as they bring their bodies back to where they can, function within the society as it is now. So social workers play a role along with nurses and doctors and people from the religious community and others who are also assisting them as well. I wanted to mention too, I did want to say that in this chapter there are some excellent kind of scenarios about how social workers work with soldiers. Now, while there might not be a specific question on the quiz about within a scenario or within a case kind of study or example, I really strongly encourage you, though, to read those because you will get an idea how social workers are working and interacting with veterans and their families. And that's an important thing, and you'll be able to pick up a lot of the lessons of this chapter by reading those scenarios. So don't forget to do that. And as always, read every page. Read every page so that you are able to put all this into context. I did want to say at the end of this that social work does look at the prevention of war and does take a stand against war in general. 3 of the reasons that are given for war, I want to mention these. 1 is the unequal distribution of wealth and resources, especially natural resources. Things that are critical for a nation to run. Oftentimes it's oil nowadays and has been for some time, or in the future it might be water. But wars have been and will continue to be fought over necessary natural resources. Certainly a country at first might try to purchase those resources from a country that has it, but if for any reason that's refused and these things become critical, that's when the risk of war gets to be extremely high. Another fundamental reason why wars have occurred throughout history have been religious fanaticism. And here we're talking both Christian, Muslim, whatever religion. That those on the fanatical end of it who believe that their God is the only God and that they are the only ones who are right with God, that's when you start to run into problems with then how they treat and how they view everyone else. And both Christians and Muslims and others who've been religious fanatics have all had their people who have brought great misery upon the world. The third is excessive emphasis on nationalism or patriotism. Again, the idea that any one particular country is by genetics the best that there is, and that everyone else is inferior. And therefore, a whole different set of rules apply to those who are inferior in terms of how they should be treated, if they should even be allowed to live with others, or if in fact they should even be allowed to live at all. So there's of course other reasons for the causes of war, but those are 3 of the fundamental reasons that are mentioned in the book. So as you finish reading the material and listening to the video lectures here, I hope you've gained a little more of a sense of what a social issue this is in our country, and probably will be for some time to come. Some of you, of course, know this through personal experience. You don't need someone to talk to you about these issues. You don't need to read about them in a book. You are living them. And anyone who might be in that category, I hope that you will make yourself known and seek out the assistance that is available here as you've come back to the country, and that you can get assistance, whether it's educational, financial, mental health, whatever it might be, that might be able to help improve your situation from where it is now. Thank you for serving our country, and that's the end of part 3.